The story is based on true events that took place in South Africa. The year is 1987, during the height of the apartheid regime. At a desolate quarry, a police investigation is underway. 7 men from a local soccer team have been murdered. The accused, a young prison guard named Leon Labuschang, claims to remember nothing. His car was found at the scene with the key still in the ignition. The victims were all shot at close range. In a bizarre detail, the killer dragged the bodies and carefully lined them up side by side. The investigators are baffled, none of it makes sense. We are introduced to John Weber, a human rights lawyer known for his opposition to the death penalty. He debates the morality of state-sanctioned killing with a colleague. Weber has been assigned to defend Leon, a case no other senior advocate wanted. In prison, Leon is hostile and uncooperative. He refuses to speak with Weber, insisting he doesn't want his help. Frustrated, Weber tries to make Leon understand the gravity of his situation, the death penalty. He mentions Leon's wife and young daughter, whom he hasn't seen in 6 months. Weber knows from Leon's file that he was a prison guard. He urges him to ask the other guards what awaits him on death row. Leon coldly replies, "I know what happens on death row. I worked there." A psychologist suggests Leon's condition is similar to soldiers suffering from combat-related mental collapse. He believes a traumatic experience triggered a violent response. News reports cover the upcoming trial of Leon Labuschang, the soccer club killer. The reports highlight Weber's international reputation as an opponent of capital punishment. Before the trial, Weber makes one last plea for Leon to help them understand why he did it. But Leon remains silent, offering no reason for his actions. Weber's team obtains a list of all the men hanged in the past year. Weber confronts Leon, asking if he participated in some of these executions. Leon's shocking reply, "I was present at all of them." A record 164 men were executed, and Leon witnessed every single one. Weber meets with his brother-in-law, Pierre, who has connections within the prison system. He asks Pierre what he knows about the men who work on death row. Weber questions what kind of person would want a job where they kill other people. He explains that Leon, a boy of 17, was thrown into this hellish system. He came out and shot 7 men, and now can't say a word in his own defense. Pierre agrees to ask some questions but warns him, "The guys who do this, they never talk." In court, Leon is advised to keep his head up as the victims' families watch him. His own parents and sister are also present, watching in distress. The prosecution begins, outlining the events of the crime. The accused ambushed the van carrying the soccer players on a deserted road. A detective confirms the pistol, registered to Leon, is the murder weapon. Weber declines to cross-examine the witness, unsettling his junior counsel. Weber explains his strategy. By not disputing the facts, he neutralizes the prosecution's emotional impact. Pierre provides Weber with a document, a table of drops used for hangings. It shows Leon was not just a guard, he was trusted to calculate the rope lengths for clean executions. Pierre explains the psychological horror. These guards get to know the men they are about to kill. Unlike in war where you shoot at uniforms, here they hang men they know personally. Weber begins his defense, stating the case is extraordinary. He argues that there was no legally culpable act because Leon was not acting consciously. The prosecution has explained what happened, the defense intends to explain why. Weber will examine Leon's working conditions on death row to find the reason for his actions. He claims the actions were unconscious, a result of his traumatic experience as a guard. Leon takes the stand and is asked how old he was when he joined the prison service. He answers, 17. He admits he joined to avoid being drafted into the army and sent to fight in Angola. He had no idea that his duties would include participating in hangings. On his first day, he was sworn to absolute secrecy about the work done inside. He recalls being taken by a warrant officer to see 7 men on death row. Those 7 men were scheduled to be hanged the next day. The officer then told the teenage Leon that he had to choose one of them. "Since you'll be escorting one of them to the gallows tomorrow." When Leon hesitates, the officer insists, the new boy has to choose one. That's how it works. Forced, Leon randomly points to a man in the corner. The next day, the executions begin at dawn. The condemned men are led from their cells, one by one. They are lined up against a wall, without shoes or socks. The prisoners are silent and compliant, following every order. A chaplain asks each man if he has anything to say before the sentence is carried out. The question is repeated down the line of 7 men. Leon recalls the smell of the wet rope, like a damp doormat. He felt his arm trembling as he held the prisoner he had chosen. He couldn't tell if it was his own shaking or the prisoner's. When asked what he remembers, Leon says only one thing, the noise. The trapdoor slams open, and the 7 men fall. Afterward, another guard mockingly warns him not to hold on so tight next time. The warrant officer told him never to speak of the hangings to anyone. He was told he would perform this duty 2 or 3 times every couple of weeks. Leon confirms he was never given any training for this work. He was never psychologically evaluated to see if he was suitable for the duty. And he was never given the choice to refuse the assignment. He was still only 17 years old. A psychologist explains that memory is an intellectual function. When overwhelmed by emotion, the intellect can shut down, and memory is interrupted. Outside the court, the mother of one of the victims confronts Weber. She tells him that man cannot get away with this. Weber's team reviews the files of the men Leon helped execute. They focus on Eben, a boy Leon's age, who was executed for a brutal murder. It's discovered that Eben specifically requested Leon to be his escort to the gallows. Back in court, Leon confirms he was present for all 164 executions that year. He admits that he got to know the men, spending all day with them. In some cases, he says, he developed friendships with them. Weber asks him specifically about the prisoner, Eben. Leon recalls reading the Bible to him, as he did for any prisoner who asked. He remembers meeting Eben's wife and daughter when they came to say goodbye. He walked them out to the parking lot, and they thanked him for taking care of Eben. As part of his duties, Leon had to measure Eben's weight and height. These measurements were used to calculate the exact length of rope needed for the hanging. The calculation had to be perfect to ensure an instant, clean death. If he calculated incorrectly, Eben would not die instantly. He would suffer, slowly strangling for up to 15 minutes. Weber asks how he felt, personally measuring the neck of a man he knew and felt should not be hanged. Leon replies numbly, "I felt nothing." When asked again what he felt as Eben died, Leon says, "I felt nothing. I thought nothing. I was just tired." As Weber presses him, Leon begins to hyperventilate, feeling unwell. The judge is forced to suspend the session as Leon breaks down completely. Pierre gives Weber a new lead. There was a riot on Leon's last day. The prisoners resisted, but they were hanged anyway. In his last 3 days of work, Leon participated in the execution of 21 men. 7 on the first day, 7 on the second. And 7 more on his final day. On that last day, the prisoners fought back, refusing to go quietly. The guards had to use force to drag them from their cells. The order was given to put them in straitjackets and hang them anyway. One prisoner's neck doesn't break cleanly in the fall. Leon and another guard are ordered into the pit below the gallows. They have to pull down on the dying man's body to finish the job. After the hangings, Leon's final duty is to clean the bodies. While washing the corpses, the guards pray over them. They then flip a coin to decide who has to drive the bodies to the cemetery. Leon loses the coin toss. While driving the truck full of corpses, he gets into a car accident. He testifies that he fainted when he returned to the prison. For his head injury and bleeding ear, the doctor gave him a headache pill. He then left work and drove home in a heavy storm. He remembers feeling tired. So tired of everything. Then he saw the soccer team's van and nearly had another accident. He remembers the sound of doors opening. He could smell the rope, taste it in his throat. But of the shooting itself, he says, "I can't remember." The prosecutor, Ms. Murray, begins her cross-examination. She challenges his claim that the work disturbed him. She brings up pranks he played, like hiding in a morgue freezer to scare a guard. She asks him about his collection of colored plastic washers. She reveals these washers came from the coffins of the executed men. She suggests it was a competition among the guards to see who could collect the most. The washers, found in his home, are presented as evidence. She argues that far from being traumatized, he actually enjoyed his work. That he felt important and powerful, having a special job, killing. She forces him to admit that when he pulled on the rope in the pit, it wasn't the hangman's hand that broke the prisoner's neck, but his own. It was your hand that killed him. And it was your hand that killed those men at the quarry, wasn't it? In his re-examination, Weber pushes Leon, asking what caused this change in him. He asks why he didn't seek help before he lost everything. Leon finally breaks, screaming in agony as the court is suspended again. The court conducts an inspection at the crime scene. Weber argues that something about the van door opening was the trigger for Leon's actions. The court then moves to the prison, to the actual gallows. At Weber's request, the warrant officer pulls the lever. The trapdoor crashes open with a deafening bang. The sound causes Leon to collapse in a traumatic flashback. He cries out, "What have I done? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I did." In his closing argument, Weber presents the list of the 164 executed men. He tells the court they were real people to Leon, whom he cared for, and then was forced to lead to the gallows and kill. He argues the list is incomplete because it is missing one name. Leon Labuschagin, who was also sentenced to death, just like the others. Weber concludes, you cannot ask a man to be both shepherd and butcher at the same time. On the day of the verdict, Leon is asked to rise. The judge declares that the court finds him guilty of the charge of murder. However, due to the extraordinary events that led to his actions, the court finds that extenuating circumstances are present. He is sentenced to 20 years in prison, with the possibility of parole. He is spared the death penalty he once administered. Leon's family reacts with overwhelming relief. Weber reflects that in the circle of killing, there is no beginning or end, only more killing. In 1987, 164 people were hanged in Pretoria. After more than 4,000 executions, South Africa declared a moratorium on the death penalty. It was abolished in 1995 after Nelson Mandela was elected president. If you want a recap of your favorite movies and shows, comment below, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. See you next time, everyone.